What are the biggest differences between wealthy investors and everybody else? That's going to be the topic of today's video. Okay everyone, if you're an expat or high net wealth individual, go over to adamfayed.com and see how I can help you. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the commonalities I've witnessed over the years. And I'm often asked this question by people who reach out to me and speak to me about, do I notice some differences between how wealthy people think and maybe how the majority of people think? And these are the main things I've noticed. Number one, I've noticed that wealthy people are more likely to invest to begin with. It sounds obvious, but obviously people who have money, they want to invest, and also they know that inflation eats away at savings. But number two, I've also noticed that wealthier investors are more likely to have a realistic outlook in terms of returns. A lot of people might assume that a lot of wealthy investors, because they've made a lot of money in business, are looking for say 20-30% per year returns or something like that. But I've actually noticed that people who have more are more likely to be realistic about the returns and realistic about the risk they need to take those returns. So it's much more likely that a wealthy investor will be looking for say 6, 8, 9% per year average returns compared to looking for 15, 20, 30% a year returns. In comparison, what we've seen in this current bull market is because some people have made some lucky bets when it comes to Tesla and other individual stocks, you actually have some individual investors who think that it's realistic to keep making 20, 30, 50% long term. And I've made this argument to some people. I mean, one of my friends introduced me to another friend, and this guy's been making 20% per year for like 5 years. But I mentioned to him, this is not going to last forever, right? But it's very hard to make that argument to people if they haven't seen a down market which has lasted, for a few years. Also, I've noticed that actually the average wealthy investor is more likely to want to be diversified. So they're more likely to want to have their eggs in numerous baskets. Beyond that, I've also noticed that in general, wealthy investors are more likely to seek advice because time is money. So they're more likely to have wealth managers, but also lawyers or consultants or whatever, but they see the benefit of having advice. And finally, believe it or not, wealthy people are more likely to be a bit more trusting. That doesn't mean naive, but trusting. So basically, I've noticed that a lot of wealthier investors are more likely to very much have a realistic view of who they can trust and who they can't. I call it like a filter. In other words, if you get past the first filter, they're actually pretty trusting and they make quick decisions. Believe it or not, most of the people who are always worried about scams and something being too good to be true, often is people without that much in the first place. So this is completely the opposite of what a lot of people assume. A lot of people assume, a wealthy person, they're always being targeted by scammers. They're always being, approached by people who aren't scammers but want to sell them something. So therefore, they're probably ultra cautious, ultra cynical, not trusting at all. But actually, I find the opposite is true. If they know they're dealing with someone who's an expert in their domain, they're more open than the average person. They make more quick decisions than the average person, which would surprise quite a lot of people. How can I help you? In two ways. First of all, are you an expat, a high net wealth individual, or just somebody who lives in a part of the world where it's difficult to get access to quality investment solutions? In which case, go onto my website on adamfayed.com and find out more. If you don't fit into any of those categories, then in which case there's a range of free material on my website, on this YouTube channel, and indeed on my Quora, where I get over 200 or have received over 231 million views in the last few years. And finally, if you want to actually read my thoughts in more detail, go onto Amazon and find my book on there.